Welcome to the Save Childhood podcast with Jennifer McCarville. Because childhood has changed, but children have not.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Save Childhood podcast.
I'm Jennifer McCarville.
And I'm Nicole Dugan. Today we are talking about our store.
Did you know we had a store?
Did you know we have a store?
We
a
do.
Children's store.
We do.
It's called Root Twig, a marvelously made store. And we're going to talk about why that store came about and what types of things are available there for children and why it is a part of the Save Childhood mission.
Yeah. Root Twig, we opened the store a year ago, but it's been something that has been on our radar for the organization for many years because we have parents and educators who come through the school asking us about the materials that are in the school, and parents talking to us through our parent advisory board and just, all the parents in conversation. I would love to have that in my house for my children. I would love to have something like that that's going to last longer, that's, made in a way that really nurtures creativity. And so where do you buy this stuff? Where do you get this stuff? And so we have had that on our radar for an opportunity to support the community better. And a year ago, we opened the store. We have a brick and mortar store, and we also have an online store. And this podcast is not it's going to promote the store. We're going to be sharing with you why these things are so incredible that we're offering and what they are. But it really is to help everyone start to look at the things we fill our children's spaces with and be intentional and thoughtful on the different levels that we are and how that's valuable for children.
Yeah.
So we want to do both. So we're not saying that, everything that you provide your children for at home or in your classroom should come from Root Twig. That's not our goal in this. Although we have amazing, incredible options of those products, it really is about what children will thrive with for toys and materials to interact with in their daily lives.
Yeah, and I'm kind of chuckling to myself because for years, people would say, you guys should open a store to sell materials like you have at school. And we always laugh we don't have time to open a store. That's crazy. And now here we are 1 year into the store. So it's been so fun and an awesome resource for families.
Yeah, and educators.
Yeah.
And
I should plug it, rootandtwigstore.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But let's talk about where the gap is with other toy stores and what Root Twig provides.
Well, so what we're noticing more and more in our modern society as things have evolved and toys even became a market, that the things they're plastic, they're loud, they make lots of noise, they are closed-ended, they have one purpose. The toy does most of the work. I can't remember who it was, but someone said that a good toy is 10% toy, 90% child. And that's such a good thing to remember when we're choosing things. What's the child going to do with it? And so many things that are available for our children really have only one particular way to use them. So we're not nurturing intelligence, creativity, any of those skills that really create lifelong learners. And then the materials. We know we really do look at the whole child when we're making decisions at Marvelously Made in whichever capacity we're working in, whether it's the store or the Safe Childhood movement or the school or the Wildflower Art Studio that we have for the public. In all of those, we're looking at how we're nurturing the whole child, which means what are we putting into their environment? And we wanted to put things into their environment that had as few toxins as possible, that had texture elements that were varied, that had rich colors and just a natural beauty about them. And again, things that could be used in a variety of ways, a variety of stages, because we know that when you're intentional about what you put in the environment for multi-age children, they're going to use the materials differently based on their stage of development, their interests, their experiences, but they're all going to be able to use all of the materials because there's not just one way.
Right.
So those were some of the reasons. We wanted to replace the entertainment idea. It's like all these things that are available for children, so many of them are just about entertaining the child, kind of drawing them in for a mindless engagement. And we want to replace that with nurturing creativity and intellectual growth. So those were the main catalysts for that, wanting to have the right products for the children in the right places, the right times, making sure they're open-ended and that they're made beautifully and sustainably. So you don't need to buy, it's not about the volume, it's about the quality.
Right.
Because when you have the right materials for children, they can learn and develop the ability to get deeply involved in play. And we know that's where the real learning happens, when they are deeply engaged in working with materials and toys. So when we have things that are about entertainment or things that are a one-use experience, they can't get deeply engaged and grow those kinds of intellectual skills and those neurological pathways for problem solving and lifelong learning.
Yeah.
They don't have those aha moments. Look what I did with this. It's very much this is what it does, versus that, wow, I made that happen. And if I move it this way, this is going to happen. And it grows with the child.
Right. And if you're watching on YouTube today, you can see that we have some of the products, just a few examples, and you can see the colors and the textures and the open-endedness that these provide.
Yeah, and it is just a small sampling, and we'll just, if we do talk about any of them, for those of you who aren't watching, we'll describe them to you and tell you a little bit as we go through. But we are definitely looking for those things that tick the boxes I was just talking about.
Yeah, and tell them about how you select books for the store. I think that's really cool because we're very intentional about the books that we have at school. Ones that fill their souls and their hearts, and so tell us about that.
We definitely carry that over into the store. Our goal is that everything that we're putting in the pathway of their childhoods really does nurture deeply. And books are hard. I mean, we've had this happen in the school multiple times where even a book we're recommending or we're sending home for a book talk, even, you read one version and you're like, okay, this is great, but you happen to purchase a different version. This just happened to us this year. And you send it home and then you start reading the version that we sent home and it's added, foul language or inappropriate content on some level. So, it's hard. You can't completely avoid that. At least we haven't been able to yet, but it is one of our goals, is to make sure that every book, every material definitely has that wholesome endeavor, doesn't give children things that they shouldn't be handling, things they shouldn't be carrying. So we know that happens. And once the children become readers themselves, and because we've nurtured a love of reading, these children are just, they are just soaking up the books. They're just going through them like crazy. And you can't read everything your children are reading as they get older. So we're really working hard to source books that have good character development, storylines that have rich language, that teach, moral lessons, and that also, there are things we really don't think about, when we think about them now, and we want to help other people notice that, is the language we provide our children with, they repeat. So when we're reading stories to them where they're rude to their peers, where they're disrespectful of anybody, whether it's their peers or their parents, where they're sassy in their language and they don't quite know how to use their sass yet, they're young, and you listen to the stories that we're reading to them or the things that they're hearing on television, well, it's no wonder. I mean, when their lives are just being filled with, language that's unkind and acts that are unkind and, developing fears that are, not necessary, it's just concerning. So we're really, really intentional about that. And like I said, we're still going to miss the mark sometimes, but we try so hard, and we try to read every book that's in the store. That's harder to do as the store has grown, but there are lots of books, if we're not sure, we'll ask one of our teachers to read or one of our parents to read over before we'll offer it.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of good books with good stories and storylines in them. It happens also with school. Our school is unique, unfortunately, in that when children start school, it looks very different from every story you'll pick up. Parents will is there a story I can read to the children to prepare them for school? So we read all the books about going to school, but they all talk about teachers being unkind and it being scary and nobody's nice to you. And when we plant that in the children, they start to believe that. Because what we're trying to do is show them what some new experience is going to be like. And they need to be able to trust that we're sending them to places that those things aren't going to be their norm. The teachers are warm and welcoming, and that's, unfortunate once we cross into that and provide our children with that. It's really hard to undo that.
Yeah. So as parents and even educators in their classrooms are looking around at the materials or looking around in their playrooms, look and see which toys are there for one purpose only.
That's a big first step.
Which ones are open-ended.
Mm-hmm. And that's the difference between open-ended and closed-ended, and so even if you have, there's nothing inherently wrong with this, but even if you have a fire truck has a very specific job, right? Whereas if you happen to have a truck that is a truck and they have a ladder they can add to it, or they have, figures that they can pretend are different things. So, but even those things are incredibly valuable, right? So we recognize there are some things like that do kind of a fire truck or a police car or a taxi. They have certain purposes, and that's great. We're talking more about activity that you push buttons on and it talks to you. We're talking more, games, obviously, they can change games up, but as they get older, games do have a way that you play them. We do look for games that are more creative, etc. But you can do a lot of things with an octopus figurine, It's not just that it does one thing, you push the button and it does it over and over. They can use the octopus in a whole bunch of different ways to create a scene or to make friends or, tell stories with, and those things can change all the time. So those are open-ended.
Right.
So when you look through your materials, think, is this mostly toy, or is this a material that the child's really going to drive?
Yeah, kid-powered, you always say.
Kid-powered. We want things that are kid-powered.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing about the store here is, I would say nothing has batteries. That's not 100% true, because we do have our Myli line, we do have a fireplace that has a little battery in it, so you can turn the light on in the fireplace. And there's a miniature lamp that has a battery in it, so you can turn the light on. But other than that, things that have batteries mostly are not going to be kid powered. We know that. So we're looking for that all the time.
Yeah.
Another thing that we look for, and people ask us, where are you getting these things? And, I spend a lot of time, and I enjoy it, but I spend a lot of time looking for companies that make things out of natural materials. You'll see a lot of wooden toys, a lot of organic materials. We make sure that the paints and the things used on them are non-toxic, that there's very little plastic. Oh yeah, this line of dough is really a great example of that. Now it does come in a plastic container, which is not our favorite, but we do understand the concern about breaking things if it were in glass, etc.
Yeah, this is a plant-based eco dough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's really wonderful and has a great texture. And but we don't think about all of those things that are going into their skin. Children are sensory learners, and the skin is the biggest organ, and they're learning through touching and feeling and rubbing it on them and rolling around and things. And so we want to make sure that those things that they have going directly into their skin, into their into all of their senses, their sense of smell, their sense of sight. We want them to be gentle and as healthy as possible.
Yeah.
So we do that across the board. The materials that we use, we have one of the best things you can give children for open-ended play are loose parts. And loose parts is, I think it's really kind of a catchphrase right now.
Buzzword.
A buzzword. Yeah, those are buzzwords right now. And yeah, so here on the table you can see this line by Grappit, which is absolutely beautiful, wooden, and all of the paints are non-toxic, and they have loose parts, just boxes of loose parts. There are some things that look like they could be trees, but they could be something else. And there are things that they kind of look like mushrooms, and they could be mushrooms, but you can make a mushroom forest with them. You can count with them. You can sort them by color. You can, do a bunch of different things with anything in this basket. Were you looking at, there's some that look like little beehives. And so you get a box of beehives. And so you get a box of beehives and a box of these teardrop looking things that we have on the table to go in our ocean, like little drops of ocean water. But they could be people. They could be counting tools. They could be something you pattern with. You could do a mushroom, a teardrop, a mushroom, a teardrop, a beehive, a mushroom, a teardrop, a beehive, a mushroom, a teardrop. So when you have these loose parts, you're covering all kinds of things, and intellectual concepts, academic skills, etc. But you're also filling their imaginations with possibilities.
Yeah, and I've seen these grab-it materials be used for learning concepts like you're talking about, patterning and sorting, but I've also seen them in small world play. I've seen some really intricate designs in the building area with them. And it really is a cool open-ended resource for all ages. And this, in looking for the materials and the lines that we carry, we're looking for all of those things. Things that we can just see children taking into their spaces and making their own. And so these loose parts by Grap-It are just so beautifully made. Heirloom, these are the things that you're going to be able to pass down to your grandchildren. And we have a wide range of prices in the store. But we do also, some of the materials that we have are those heirloom type quality, and they are going to last generations. So you are probably going to end up buying fewer things, and some of them might cost a little more, but not all of them. Like I said, there's a huge price range. Yeah.
So, but knowing that you don't need as much. You would spend just as much money buying something that's high quality versus buying a lot of things.
Right.
And you want a variety, but they don't need to be overwhelmed. They need the things that can grow with them and can be used in 100 different ways.
Right.
So, and I know later we're going to talk about, in another episode coming up, about gifts as the holiday season comes up, and we'll talk more specifically about the categories of things that children really need. And that also, once we really think about what they need, it weeds out a bunch of stuff.
Right. Right.
But yeah, we have a lot of kits. We have a lot of things that children can build and do and create. And so those are fun things, a lot of STEM activities. They can build their own Morse code machine. They can make a wooden elevator. They can, create with knitting boards and crochet kits and felting kits. So things that the children are driving the experience.
Right. Right. So Root and Twig is really just a place that reflects childhood wonder.
It does.
It's a beautiful place.
It really is. And we want you to come in and we want you to have that feeling. It does feel different, which is true of all of our environments. And this is the goal for children, for our homes, for our classrooms, is that they're spaces that you walk in and you can breathe. And it just calms your soul, and it ignites just in those moments a wonder and a curiosity and a creativity that are just foundational for learning the most powerful things we can do. Because we know when we put better things in children's hands, we nurture their hearts. And that's, the ultimate goal of everything that we do, including Root and Twig.
Yeah. So check us out online, rootandtwigstore.com, and let's keep the conversation going. Are there certain toys you're looking for? Leave them in the comments. Follow us and like and subscribe, all the things at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Yeah.
We're all over. So
doing
join
all
us.
the things. Listen, you can share the podcast. We know that we could use help with the liking and the sharing all the time, the commenting. We want to talk to you and see what it is what are the things that you played with as a child, and what are the things that you'd really like to see poured into your own homes and classrooms that are going to deeply engage the children.
Yeah, and head over to savechildhood.org to learn more about our 14 tenets.
Yep.
And we will see you next time.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us today. To learn more and join the movement, go to savechildhood.org.